What's going on, y'all? Chuck Nunface here. I got a pretty interesting knife on the table now. I've done a review of the Olamic Wayfarer in the past on the channel, but I wanted to take a look at this one because this one's a little bit different and it's a little bit special to me, and I just wanted to kind of go over some of the changes that Olamic has made. They've done some updates to the Wayfarer 247 this past year, and I just wanted to kind of go over one of the particular models that they're offering now. So as you can see, this is the Olamic Wayfarer 247. This is a knife that I've been a fan of for several years, and I definitely recommend them. I've had, over the years, I think I've had 6 different Wayfarers in different blade styles. I've had the standard drop point. I've had the sheep's cliff that they have, which is a really good model. I've had the Tonto. I've had the, what's it called? The recurve one, the harpoon model, and of course this is now one of their new offerings, which is the Suna, and it's got a different type of blade style, one of the new blade styles that they've offered for 2022, and a different steel choice that they haven't offered in a while, at least not on the Wayfarer 247. So yeah, we'll kind of get into that here. So just over some overall specs, this is a knife with a 3.5 inch blade, so you're looking at 1, 2, 3.5 right there, with about a cutting edge of 1, 2, 3, about 3.25 inches, 3.5, almost a 3.5 inch cutting edge as well. About 3.25. It's got that nice little choil right there. It weighs in at about 5 ounces, depending, 4.9 ounces to 5 ounces. And it can actually be quite a bit less if you do one of the milling patterns, because Olamic is pretty famous for their motto is never the same. Olamic, never the same, and you can get tons of different combinations of finishes and milling patterns and what they call acid rain, where you have all these little holes drilled in the handle scales on both sides, and so. Yeah, it has a lot of different options. There's really just a ton of choices. There's literally probably millions of choices that you can do as far as builds go. Let's go ahead and do some size comparisons real quick. So there it is with your Spyderco Stretch 2. So it's going to be pretty similar in that carry profile right there. They're very similar, as a matter of fact. And there we go against the Spyderco Native 5. All right. So it's going to be kind of in the carry size of that PM2 range. All right, let's see. There is the Ontario Rat number 1 right there. So it's going to be a little smaller overall than the Rat number 1. We'll kind of mix it up a little bit here. We'll do the Axial Shift OTF. So that's the Axial right there. So it's going to have a bigger blade than the Axial Shift. But you know, a smaller handle overall as well. So the Axial is kind of in that space where it's in between, I would say, a Microtech UTX 85 and standard Ultratech. Let's see, we'll do the Emerson A100, sporting that green micarta right there. So pretty similar size to the A100. And what else did I bring out? Oh yeah, just for grins, we'll do the Spartan Heartsey folder. So it's going to be smaller than your Spartan Heartsey folder in pretty much all regards. Length, blade length, weight, everything else. It's going to be smaller than that. And I kind of chose the Spartan Heartsey folder because this is the Dia de los Muertos edition with the sugar skulls on there. And what kind of makes this significant is this is their Halloween 2022. One of their, I only saw 2 Halloween 2022 knives from Olamic this year. And one was a busker. Now there may have been more, I could be wrong, but this is what I saw. So during CCKS, which is the California Custom Knife Show, Olamic was there, and they also, oftentimes during knife shows, they'll do what's called the Olamic table, where they'll offer a few knives at reduced prices with different options on their table and different models and everything. So they had some Wayfarer 247s, they had some buskers, they had some swishes. They had a couple rainmakers. They had their new whippersnappers out there and everything else. And so the only Halloween ones I saw were, like I say, this 247 and also that busker. And so I went ahead and I saw this, and this is their new blade grind. It's the Suna grind, they call it, S-U-N-A. And it is almost a full flat ground, or sorry, strike that, full hollow ground knife. Now it does have a little bit of flat right there at the very, very top, but it is very thinly ground, very thinly ground. I mean, when you listen to it, you can hear just how thin that grind is. I haven't taken a, calipers to it. I don't have a set of calipers, but I would imagine it's going to be pretty thin behind the edge. And I have used this knife and I have resharpened it. But yeah, in using it, it slices really well. It just rips right through cardboard very easily. Now I did resharpen it already on my KME, reprofiled it just a little bit and took the edge back just a hair, not too much, because it is so thin behind the edge. It wasn't really necessary, but I did just a hair from factory. I took it back. And I think I took it to, did I go all the way to 1500 on my KME and then strops? I believe I did. And it is just super slicey now. Now, one thing I will say about Olamic is as much as I like their knives, they do not do the best sharpening from the factory. It is not quite as sharp as it should be. And so that was one of the things I did pretty early on. Now, this being the Halloween edition, they're always going to have some sort of Halloween themed color scheme. It can be green, it can be purple, this could be black and orange like this one is here. Now this one is done from KG Gun Coat, so they don't do a lot of these in that. So it's not Cerakote, it's not PVD or anything like that. It's done in that KG Gun Coat, and they're based in Tyler, Texas, I believe. And so they do the finish on all of these. So it's got that super bright day glow hunter orange underneath and on the inside of the frame. And of course, as the underlayer for all those parts, all the hardware, the clip, and the frame itself. And then it's covered with a black. I would imagine it's just a flat black, something like that. And the blade is all flat black. And then they kind of brush some of that top layer finish off, I would imagine. And you kind of get that shadow box look and that worn look. And I don't know if it'll come across on camera, but it does kind of have that lighter orange and black texture kind of coming through on the frame itself. And so, this one as well, CTX XHP, which is nice. One of my favorite steels for knives. I just love CTX XHP. It's right up there with S90V for me. And so these have typically always been offered in M390, and their Wayfarer Compact and Wayfarer Classic, which are more of the custom knives, not really necessarily the mid-techs, but more of their custom kind of one-offs. Those were typically in XHP, but most of the Wayfarer 247s have almost all been, over the last several years, M390. So now it looks like they're moving into some more steel choices and some more offerings. And so they're doing S90V, and they're also doing XHP, which are two of my favorites, so it's win-win. Either one is 100% fine by me. So this one is XHP, which of course is nice. So kind of with the Halloween theme and everything else, it didn't come when this picture. So I think I'll backtrack a little bit. Saw it on the Olamic table, went ahead, picked it up. Such a fun way to buy a knife. I like how they do that when they do knife shows. And then they put a few offerings out there through the Olamic table site. And so went ahead and grabbed it. And a couple of days later, I ended up actually getting a text from Eugene, the owner of Olamic, or one of the owners of Olamic, kind of the guy that runs the show. And he said, what do you want as a laser inscription on the blade? He says, just has to be something spooky. It can be, pumpkins, bats, ghosts, something like that, but it's got to be spooky. And so I was like, oh, all right, well, kind of thought about it for a second. And, my son, he really likes, if you've got kids age 4, 5, 10, something like that in your house, they watch a lot of YouTube. And he really likes his character Huggy Wuggy. So we went and put our heads together. We found a couple of images online that we might be able to use. And hopefully it'll come through. Yeah, I think we can get it to focus on that. So we've got that Huggy Wuggy character right there, laser inscribed. So that's kind of a nod to my son, who really kind of likes that character, and he got a kick out of it when he saw it as well. So I thought that was really cool. Eugene contacting me and saying, what do you want to have as your emblem there? And yeah, that's what we kind of settled on. So these knives, big fan of these knives. The ergos are fantastic. I just love them. Like I say, I've owned 6 or 7 of these over the years, but I didn't have one in my collection currently. I'd kind of sold and traded the ones that I had, which was surprising. And I wasn't sure I was going to get another one. Kind of thought that I experienced everything that the 247 really had to offer. But this one came up, and once again, they got me. They really did. And I'm glad I picked this one up, because it's really, I mean, this is the nicest, thinnest grind I've ever seen on an Olamic Wayfarer. You know, this grind is really just top notch. It cuts so well. Now, I'm not somebody that's always looking for that thinnest possible grind. You know, if you watch my channel, you know I like Medfords and things like that. I'm not necessarily, you know, looking for the sliciest, you know, most efficient cutting implement that's out there. But I'm really glad I picked this one up, because it is super slicey and it cuts really well. I mean, it really just does perform as a knife, you know, in that regard, as a knife should perform. I mean, it's just excellent. I definitely recommend these knives. I think the Wayfarer 247 really belongs in the conversation with the greats. I think it belongs in the conversation with your Chris Reeves Sebenza. It belongs with the Hinderer XM series. It belongs with, you know, the classic big three knives, the Strider SNG, the Hinderer XM18, and the Chris Reeve knives, Sebenza. I think it belongs in the conversation. Now, of course, that's kind of dated. There are other knives out there that I think compete. But, you know, the Wayfarer 247, it's called the 247 because it can be in your pocket 24/7. It can truly be your EDC, your everyday carry knife. So that's going to do it for me. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Click that button right there. Leave a comment. I'd certainly appreciate it. Let me know what you think about this one, or what you think about Olamic in general. If you've had a 247, what you thought about them. Go ahead and turn on your alerts. That helps as well, so you get notified when I put new content out. And give me a follow on Instagram at Chuck_Nunface. I always appreciate that. I'm pretty active on Instagram, posting every day. And yeah, that'll be it for me. Catch y'all next time.